Magnitude 6.2 earthquake hit central Italy at 3:36 a.m. on Wednesday, collapsing buildings and burying people in debris. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the quake struck near the city of Perugia, which is about 170 kilometers northwest of Rome. The BBC reported that at least 6 people have been killed, mainly due to building collapses, and many more have been injured. The earthquake has been followed by several powerful aftershocks, and the number of casualties is expected to rise. The mayor of Amatrice, in the hardest hit area, told Italian radio half the town is gone and people are buried under rubble.
क्या है, कहीं ये आने वाली तबाही का ट्रेलर तो नहीं है। सोमवार को दोपहर में दिल्ली और आसपास के इलाकों में भूकंप के झटके महसूस हुए थे, तो वहीं आज सुबह
At least 40 people have been killed and hundreds of thousands evacuated as widespread flood hit vast areas of central and eastern India. Days of heavy rain have caused water levels in the Ganges River and its tributaries to reach dangerously high levels during the past 48 hours. Most of the deaths were caused by drowning, electrocution, or injuries caused by collapsed houses.
5 years ago today, the earth moved and grabbed the attention of millions of people in Maryland and the mid-Atlantic. Alex Dimitruk reports that rare 5.8 magnitude earthquake might still be having an impact on one famous landmark.
This is what it sounded like in some places, and what it felt like varied across the mid-Atlantic.
The building just started rumbling.
I kind of felt like the floor do like a wave a little bit.
But it was at the top of the Washington Monument that the 5.8 magnitude quake may have been most frightening.
It was absolutely terrifying. It was shaking so violently to have the mortar falling on your head. The fear was so high that I was sure that we were under attack. I didn't realize at first that it was an earthquake.
It surprised a lot of us.
We do have reports that there was an earthquake in Virginia. Oh my God, is that what it was?
August 23rd, 2011, a few buildings in Baltimore were damaged. In Virginia, the quake also took a toll, but the biggest hits were in D.C. at the National Cathedral and the Washington Monument, inside and out.
And wound up having to close the site for more than 2.5 years to complete the repairs.
It was not a job for those afraid of heights. The entire monument had to be covered in scaffolding for $15 million in repairs and reinforcement.
On this 5th anniversary, the monument is closed again. This time it's trouble with the elevator, which may be the result of damage from the quake.
There were open cracks in some of the stones. There was actually water going into the interior of the monument. We're starting to see the effects, the corrosive effects of moisture on some of those sensitive electronic systems that operate the elevator.
If so, the quake is still being felt.
One person has been killed and a further 30 wounded after 2 bombs exploded near a hotel on Tuesday night in the southern coastal town of Patani. The town is in one of 3 Muslim-majority southern provinces that have suffered from 12-year insurgency. And police say that the first blast happened in the parking lot behind the Southern View Hotel, but that no one was hurt. And the second blast happened when the truck parked near the hotel's entrance exploded. The attacks come less than 2 weeks after a series of unexplained explosions in tourist hotspots in the south of Thailand. A defense minister ruled out any link between those attacks and the latest bombings.
The FBI is investigating an attempted ISIS-style beheading inside the U.S. 20-year-old Wasil Faruqi has been charged with stabbing 2 people in an apartment complex in Roanoke, Virginia. As he attacked the man and woman, witnesses said they heard Faruqi yell Allah Akbar, which is Arabic for God is great. According to authorities, the attacker may have been trying to behead the male victim. The 2 victims were seemingly chosen at random. The FBI has said they were aware of Faruqi, with ABC News reporting he had traveled to Turkey and may have tried to sneak into Syria to meet with the Islamic extremists. Just last month, 2 terrorists beheaded a priest in Normandy, France. ISIS had claimed responsibility. Faruqi is currently being held without bond.
Paris. Last year it fired the imagination of 47 million tourists. But this year they seem to have given it the cold shoulder.
There was very less people. So I asked my husband, I was like, what's going on? You know, when we came here in 2012, there was so many people.
You know, I'm a tourist. I want the empty streets for the picture. So Montmartre is beautiful like this.
The steps in front of the Sacré-Cœur are usually packed with people at this time of year. But fear of attacks has put off some visitors.
I was thinking about, as I was traveling in the tube, what if somebody planted a bomb?
The damage has been felt across all sectors. At Renoir's former studio in the heart of Montmartre, now a museum, they've never seen a downturn like it. The famous Champs-Élysées is usually a hive of tourists from around the world. This newspaper and souvenir vendor is feeling their absence.
We work with hotels, and some of them are ordering far fewer newspapers than before, that's for sure.
Hotels reported a 10% fall in foreign tourists in July, with the luxury sector most feeling the pinch.
On one hand, we've had a drop in reservations. On the other, there were lots of cancellations after the tragic events in Nice in July.
Germany agrees to take in hundreds of refugees who are blocked in Italy. Italy's Interior Minister Angelino Alfano said that the move might revive the European Union's failed relocation program. Last year, the European Commission devised a plan aimed at moving thousands of new arrivals away from Italy and Greece towards other EU members in a bid to relieve pressure on Europe's frontline states. However, only a few hundred out of tens of thousands of refugees have been flown out to other EU countries. Germany has been one of Europe's top recipients of refugees, taking in more than 1 million last year.
Dass ich mich freue, dass Deutschland auch ein Land geworden ist, mit dem viele Menschen außerhalb Deutschlands Hoffnung verbinden.
It's a statement that has guided German Chancellor Angela Merkel's open-door migration policy. Applauded around the world as an act of moral leadership at the height of the EU's refugee crisis. Now those words may come back to haunt her. Multiple attacks committed by non-German nationals have called into question Germany's ability to balance its fluid borders with security. A shooting at a movie theater in Munich last month killed 9 people. 2 other attacks in the same month wounded 19 people, including an axe attack on a crowded train near Würzburg and a suicide bombing outside a bar in Ansbach. That one was claimed by Daesh. Now Germany is poised to implement new measures to protect its citizens. But in reality, critics say they could limit the rights of the very people who, just months ago, they welcomed with open arms. Many of Germany's new anti-terror proposals sound familiar, resembling those introduced in France and the United Kingdom. They include boosting video surveillance in public spaces and increasing the presence of police on trains, railway stations, and airports. They also call for more security personnel on the streets, with a plan to recruit 15,000 police officers by 2020.
Russia warns that Ukraine's provocations in Crimea could intensify tensions along the line of confrontation in eastern Ukraine. The Russian President Vladimir Putin made the comments in a phone call with his French counterpart François Hollande and the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. The French President expressed his concern over the spike in tensions in eastern Ukraine. Hollande said that any escalation of violence could jeopardize the peace process. At the end of the conversation, the 3 leaders agreed to discuss the Ukraine situation on the sidelines of the upcoming G20 summit in China. Tensions have been running high between the army and the pro-Russian militias in eastern Ukraine. Last week, Russia claimed to have caught Ukrainian saboteurs in Crimea. Ukraine put troops on alert and warned that the country could move towards a full-scale war if the conflict in Crimea escalates. A U.S. soldier has been killed in Afghanistan's southern province of Helmand.
According to NATO, the soldiers succumbed to injuries sustained in a roadside bombing near Lashkar Gah. Another American and 6 Afghan soldiers were also wounded during the anti-Taliban operation. The attack came one day after U.S. officials announced that 100 American troops had been sent to the region to help prevent the city from falling to the Taliban. This marks the first major American deployment to the southern city since foreign forces withdrew from there in 2014.
The Democratic People's Republic of Korea has test-fired a ballistic missile from a submarine off its eastern coast. South Korea's military said the missile was fired in early hours of Wednesday morning near the coastal city of Singpol. The Defense Ministry officials said the DPRK's missile technology appeared to have advanced compared with previous launches, as the warhead flew around 500 kilometers before crashing into the sea. And the launch comes against a backdrop of rising tensions on the peninsula following the start of a large-scale joint military exercise between South Korea and the United States.
Moving on, as part of the ongoing Ulchi Freedom Guardian exercise, police, firefighters, and soldiers held a counterterrorism drill at a subway station in Seoul on Tuesday. The scenario was designed to simulate conditions as close as possible to those of a real attack.
A terrorist runs through a subway car, screaming and assaulting the passengers. His bomb explodes, filling the train with smoke and knocking out the lights. The emergency systems kick in, and the train comes to a stop. This counter-terrorism training operation was held at 2 p.m. on Tuesday as part of the ongoing Ulchi Freedom Guardian exercise.
140 officials from the Army, Fire and Police departments and district offices are taking part in this one-hour drill at Shingurim Station on Seoul's busy subway line 2. The training assumes a mock situation where a terrorist bombs a moving train.
As the safety doors open, passengers covering their noses and mouths evacuate the train and help others in the process. The police arrive on the scene and capture the terrorist as firefighters put out the flames and carry away the injured. A group of soldiers search the train for any remaining bombs while others guard the platform and nearby areas. The training ends as metro crews get the train back online and finally announce the all clear. The detailed role-play with its artificial smoke and emergency announcements makes for a tense atmosphere in the underground facility.
The Syrian government says France is behind the 2013 deadly chemical attack on a Damascus suburb. Syria's envoy to the United Nations says the French government's move intensified calls for an anti-Syria military action. The attack left hundreds of civilians dead in eastern Ghouta region.
Some chilling assessments are out on the Affordable Care Act. Healthcare costs went up 8.5% this year alone and may rise by 10% more next year. This is according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. To make matters worse, almost 1 in 5 businesses said they'd cut down on workers because of the Affordable Care Act. And Rick, I know that you're writing a story on this. So what are sort of the highlights of this survey?
Well, just to clarify the survey, first of all, it's just in the region of the New York Fed, so it's not a national survey. But you're right, and their surveys have shown this in prior years, where they've got something like 21% of manufacturers say they have actually reduced or are in the process of reducing hiring on account of the ACA. And I have chatted with some of the people at the New York Fed. It is they don't know exactly why companies would be doing that. And one
because they're not directly impacted.
Well, you're not impacted if you if you have fewer than 50 employees, right, or if you are larger than 50 employees, but you already offer health insurance. But if you are larger than 50 employees and you do not offer health insurance, then you have to pay a penalty. Those people would, it makes sense that they were cutting back on hiring.
The nation's debt reaching dangerous levels. The Congressional Budget Office says it is now at its highest level compared to our economy than at any time in 65 years. The problem? Revenue down, spending up. Now, what would you do if your child came home with this? One Florida school coming under fire after one family exposed what it has been sending kids home with. A slip that allows kids to opt out of saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Instead of signing it, the family wrote this message: "This is the dumbest thing I've ever read, and I am so ashamed of this." Their message is going viral, and now the school appears to be backing down. Kathy Lynn Taylor says this is PC out of control. Do we need a law to allow kids and parents to opt out of the Pledge of Allegiance?
This is so ridiculous. This is the PC culture that people are so upset about, and that's driving the 71% dissatisfaction ratings across both sides of the aisle.
New scientific evidence is refuting the claim that LGBT individuals are born that way. The report comes from researchers at Johns Hopkins University, and they say they aren't taking sides in the debate, just reporting the evidence. The new report says the formation of sexual identity is complicated, but the evidence indicates environmental factors may play a role. For example, it states that homosexuals are 2 to 3 times as likely to have been victims of child sexual abuse. The report also concludes that up to 80% of teenage boys who report same-sex attraction no longer have those feelings as adults. This new report covers data from 200 peer-reviewed studies and is published in the New Atlantis.
A case of cholera has been confirmed in Korea for the first time in 15 years.
The Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention announced on Tuesday that a 59-year-old man living in Gwangju, Jeollanam-do province has been confirmed to have been infected with the disease. The KCDC is currently conducting an epidemiologic investigation into the patient to look into the ways he could have contracted the highly contagious disease. Since he has no record of traveling abroad this year, local authorities are assuming he might have contracted cholera in the country.
This is a strange case because cholera has never occurred naturally within the country. In the past, cholera outbreaks were caused by visitors from overseas already infected with the bacteria. Since cholera is transmitted through contaminated food or water, there is a good chance that the patient got infected by eating raw seafood.
The KCDC also said the continued heat wave could have contributed to the bacteria to thrive a long period of time.
Sea surface temperatures have significantly risen due to the sweltering weather conditions as of late, providing an optimal environment for the cholera bacterium to multiply and contaminate the fish.
Here at home, a foul smell lingers across a New Jersey town where thousands of dead fish washed into a marina.
It looked like ice when we first pulled up. We didn't know what it was.
From far away, it's unclear exactly what is covering the surface of the water and surrounding Art Lynch's boat here at Lentz Marina in Keansburg, New Jersey. But up close, you can see and smell the hundreds of thousands of dead fish that have washed up here. How overwhelming is the smell?
Oh, it's bad. It's enough to gag you.
We kept towels over our noses.
This is starting to smell like rotten fish. It's a whole different smell than a fishy fish.
Over the past few days, these dead peanut bunker fish have also turned up in Waycake Creek and along Keansburg Beach. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection says the fish were likely chased into the creek by either bluefish or skate. And despite the tides, the low oxygen level is killing them.
There's so a large amount and they fight each other for the oxygen and there's not enough of it.
Mayor George Hoff says the borough is trying to get this fish die-off cleaned up.